Welcome to Behind the Business, Naomi. I am so excited you are here.
Thank you. I'm delighted you invited me on.
It's going to be so much fun today. Obviously, we've been working together now for quite some time, and we have the best conversations back and forth via Slack. And I think it will be great to bring this bubbly energy that you and I have together for everyone else to be able to listen to and get value from.
Yeah, amazing. Absolutely amazing.
So, why don't we kick off by you sharing who you help because you are fantastic at what you do. You know, you're a published author, you speak at events, you've helped hundreds and hundreds of women to change their lives and their health and their fitness. And yeah, you're just an incredible human being. So I'd love for you to share quickly what you do.
Thank you so much. Well, I've made a name for myself as the Unconventional Weight Loss Coach, and I help women to break free from restrictive diets and emotional eating, and most importantly, heal their relationship with food, their body, and themselves. So, most of the women that come to me have dieted all their lives, they have restricted, they have a really poor relationship with, their food, themselves, but actually it's leaking out into every area of their life, their relationships, if they have businesses, their careers, their confidence or lack of confidence. And I'm not your conventional weight loss coach. I'm not about macros, calories, workout plans, meal plans or any of that. I help women through a 360-degree modality, science backed, compassion led, and shame free to heal that relationship that has been disconnected. And I absolutely love what I do.
I can hear it in your energy, and I love just how dialed in that messaging is and how clear and articulate and passionate you are about what you do. I'm really curious because typically for us coaches, we get into this industry for a reason, and especially with you even being super clear and just owning the fact that you're an unconventional weight loss. Like, what was your journey to getting to that point to be so passionate about a topic like that?
Yeah, I struggled with food, body image, and my weight from the age of 9,
Wow.
really, really early age. And I struggled at school with, I just felt like I didn't fit in. I was in a very competitive all girls school. I had lots of chronic health conditions. So I was constantly off school and with like really long bouts of illness. And what that meant was I really struggled to catch up with the, academic side of things. I wasn't sporty because I have a degenerative back condition. So I just felt like I didn't fit. So food became a friend. And my mum was an incredible cook. So there was always like on her days off when she wasn't on shift, there was always, homemade macaroons in the cupboard, flapjack. The kitchen was like the heart and the hub of our home. And then when I was 12, my mum got chronically ill and 7 years of horrific, horrific illness. And she died when I was a teenager.
Wow.
And so my food relationship then became replacing the love that I lost from my mum. And that then spilled into my 20s and my 30s, chronic health conditions. I did every single diet you could imagine. I did laxatives, I did pills. I was just so desperate to be happy in my skin. And even when I wasn't overweight, I thought I was and I hated my body. And I did all these fitness plans, all these diet plans. And at 39, I had the worst health. I was, diagnosed pre-diabetic. I had suffered with depression for 30 years, chronic anxiety, panic attacks, everything. And on my just after my 39th birthday, I was like, I just can't do this anymore. It was impacting my mental health, my like how I showed up in my career, everything. And I went on my, as we call it, journey. And I, lost 70 pounds in weight naturally, but through small, simple, sustainable changes. And then what I realized was I'd lost the weight, but I was still battered with poor mental health inside. And I was like, wow, I thought my life was going to be like perfect when I, dropped down to the size I wanted to be. And then I realized that actually the external transformation is just a small part. And actually, the biggest part is the mindset, the identity piece, all those different things. And I walked out of my corporate career. It'll be 10 years this January. I walked, I know, I cannot believe it. I'd had a really successful 21-year corporate career in hospitality, like, lifestyle, health, wellness, cosmetics, global companies. But I had just turned 41. I was, unbeknown to me, in perimenopause, which for a lot of women is a time when they really struggle with confidence, anxiety, all those different things. And everything came up and hit me. And I walked out of my corporate career and I was like, what am I going to do now? And because I'd started my own health journey, I was like, I can help other women like me. And it has evolved. And I rebranded a year and a half ago to the Unconventional Weight Loss Coach. But that was after so many women had given me feedback and said, oh my God, like I came to you for weight loss, but actually I didn't really, it wasn't the weight loss I needed. It was this. And I was like, but how do you market that? How do you say it? And then lots of names kind of came up, and then the name, the Unconventional Weight Loss Coach, was suggested to me. And I was like, yeah, I'm not conventional. How I do things is really different.
Yeah.
So that's the short version.
That's extremely powerful. I had like full body goosebumps as you were saying so much of that. Like there's just even things I didn't know about, you and your journey as well. So that's incredible, like the things that you've overcome, but also like it sounds like you lived a lot of your life like in a way that you kind of, didn't want to when it came to, your body confidence and your health and everything like that, which is, so sad. But I think that's also what's so powerful about what you do is you're helping people, not have to waste another ounce of energy or time or, effort into the wrong things. And it's interesting you say that you do things really differently, but, that's a really good thing, because if you look at what the majority do, it's like, it's the small 1%ers and the people that do things differently that have a very different result to the average, right? So I kind of like that you're unconventional, because if the diets and the pills and all these things truly worked, I think a lot more people would be really happy and healthy and whole and complete. And that's just not the case, is it?
No, absolutely. And you're right. It is, everything I talk about is freedom. My program is freedom from diets. Everything is freedom, because what I battled with for so many years, and so many women do, is that feeling of being trapped in counting calories, trapped in a
Mm,
diet plan that's really rigid. And lots of women that come to work with me, they're scared to go out for dinner with their husbands and partners, and they're scared to go on holidays. And I
mm,
remember that feeling too, that I remember going on the trip of a lifetime. My partner at the time, we went to South Africa, we went on safari. It should have been the most incredible holiday, and don't get me wrong, it was amazing, but it was so completely overshadowed by how I felt in my body, how I felt, even with the meals on the plane, and the location and the photos that came back. And like you said, it just takes up so much brain space. And one thing so many women say to me is that when they ditch the diet mentality and they learn to trust themselves, how I teach them, they find joy again in their lives.
so powerful. And I can totally hear you. Like, I think, especially us women, I suppose, but I think all of us have had an experience like that where, going on a holiday or whatever it might be, and our brain is just taking over with thoughts and judgments and criticism towards ourselves, whether it's our weight or it's our skin or, whatever it might be, or it's just a problem in another area of our life taking over and seeping into other areas. And I think, how we do one thing is how we do many things. And unfortunately, yeah, there is that big overlap between, different areas of our life if something's like a really big problem. So I can see, I'm not surprised at all that you help people, change their entire life by just focusing on one core area for the most part.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how you say that how we do anything is how we do many things, because you probably know that the usual saying is how we do anything is how we do everything. And I never believe in that, but I
Yeah,
do
I
believe
never
that,
say that. I always say many things, because
because
it's
it's
not
not
it's not
true.
everything. Yeah, it's not
You're
everything.
absolutely right. But when women do work with me, we see their relationships improving. We see the intimacy coming back in their marriages that they thought were over. We see them going for incredible promotions that they never felt capable of achieving before. That whole ripple effect, we see their children being happier. I mean, how crazy is that? That when you take women out of the diet culture, that actually their children and their relationships with their children and partners become better.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. It has that ripple effect across all areas of their lives.
Yeah. And whilst I feel like I've definitely not been on such a journey like you have when it comes to health, but I've definitely gone through a phase many years ago where I wasn't 100% happy with my body. And it wasn't even as extreme as, I know you should never compare, I suppose, but like it wasn't as extreme as many people's situations. And yet it still absolutely consumed me, certain days or weeks or months, and where you do feel uncomfortable in what you're wearing, or you're just so busy like comparing yourself to other people or wondering what other people think. And it's actually so painful. And so I absolutely hear and know and can see how, yeah, what you do is just so, so powerful. And it's so much more than just weight loss, right? Because, when you do love yourself and how you look unconditionally, that confidence radiates into all areas, right? And I think, that's what's going to be really powerful about this conversation today. I can already tell is that, again, how we do one thing is just how we do many things, not everything. But, that confidence, when you have that within yourself, that absolutely seeps into business success, right? And I know we've had big conversations about that as well. When we feel good, that's going to seep into the actions that we do or do not take within our business, which will impact the results that we do or don't get, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And like you say, that confidence, belief in yourself, if you'd told me even a few years ago that I would speak on stage, that I would author a book, would publish a book, would be on a podcast even like this. I mean, this last year I've been guest on a lot of podcasts. I was like such a nervous, quiet. I know people don't believe it. I was such a nervous, quiet child, woman, wanted to be in the background, didn't want to kind of, speak out or anything like that. But what's happened on my journey is that actually I've found my voice and I want to use my voice and I'm confident to use my voice. And all those second guessing, doubting, or don't get me wrong, we know this, that they're still there. We share
Of
that on the
course.
journey as well. They don't just miraculously go away, but they are minimal now. Whereas
Yes.
those were my not even my daily thoughts, they were my every minute thoughts, like, oh my god, did I just send that email? Oh god, oh my god, I said the wrong thing. I'd lie awake at night like reliving conversations with boyfriends, with my dad, with family members, with loved ones. Now I'm just like, I just, I'm mindful, I'm respectful, I'm like to think that I'm a kind person, but I do not overthink all these situations and scenarios like I used to.
Yeah, because when you really love yourself, you have the ability to forgive yourself and forgive others as well, right? Whereas when we
Yes.
don't love ourselves, and we're so critical of ourselves, then yeah, it's really hard for us to forgive and forget and let go and move on, right? It's that attachment. And so I think, yeah, it just comes back to showcasing really how important, confidence is, self-respect, standards, self-love is, because that's just going to seep into so many things. Like, and you said something just then that was really powerful about, there was a time where you didn't want to be seen versus now you're confident and you're totally okay being seen. And look how there's like this direct correlation with business results. Like when you were afraid to be seen, you didn't have a successful business, you weren't on podcasts, you weren't on stages, you weren't a published book. Whereas now with that confidence, like you could look at all those things as business strategies that you just took action on, but that's really not what happened. It's you had the confidence, you were actually genuinely, subconsciously, unconsciously okay to be seen. Um,
Yes.
and that then flowed into you saying yes to these things and leaning in and actually being seen so that you can get invited to opportunities, such as all of those things that you've done and continue to do, right? So you can really just see even people's business success, how often it comes down to that, self-worth, like actually feeling worthy of holding and receiving, all of the things that you desire.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see this all the time with women that do come to like work with me. Even on the first Zoom call, like they kind of come on Zoom and all I see is sort of this. And I can see that already they're holding back.
Mm,
They're, and a lot of that judgment is self-judgment, but of
of
course we
course.
think that it's others judging us, but so often it's our own judgment.
Yes.
And, like you say, that, if I work with online business owners, they're scared to show up. They don't want to be visible. They tell me that they dream of going on stage. They dream of doing this. They dream of doing that. But often also what they're doing is they're putting it off until they're the perfect size or until they've lost the weight. And what I do is I help from a kind of a multi faceted approach in so much as I help women to gain that confidence on the journey. So we're not
Mm,
waiting until they're a size 12,
no.
10, 70 kilos, 80 kilos. We're working on that confidence and belief on the journey so that they feel confident to show up regardless of body size, regardless of body weight, whatever it might be.
I love that. And you hit the nail on the head there. I see the exact same thing helping, coaches to grow their business. There's so many that are starting out with, they've not, reached any milestones yet. They're waiting for the perfect time. They're waiting to feel ready. They're waiting for all of their ducks to line in a row. Like they're waiting for this and waiting for that. And they're just going to continue waiting. Like you have to just make a decision. Like circumstances are never going to be perfect for anything, right? You've just got to lean in. Like now is always the best time. Like why, for example, even with your health, like of course now is the best time. Why, if you're not happy with your health and you're not feeling like as good as you could be, why would you wait for next
Yeah.
Monday, for the 1st of January? Why would you wait even 1 minute longer when that's a minute that's taken away from your life where you could be feeling 100% energy, right? And so it's so interesting how we wait until these sorts of things, but actually what we need to realize is but we create those things, like through leaning in and taking that messy action.
Yeah, and I say that to my clients all the time. Like when they say things like, I don't believe in myself yet. I don't believe I can change and I don't have the confidence. I'm like, no, that's the reward. That's what you get when you do the messy thing. And you said there about like having your ducks in a row. And I always joke and say, like, my squirrels are at a rave. I mean, there is not one duck, it is not in a row.
Nah.
But I was very much like that. Like when X happens, I can do Y. And I do remember one piece of advice that my very first business coach gave me in 2019. I had never been online. I'd obviously had a successful corporate career. I was so scared about judgment, about all this. And I was like waiting to get my program all ready. And he just said, Naomi, jump out the bloody plane and the parachute will open on the way down.
I
And
love
he was
that.
and he was absolutely right. And
Yeah.
you know, I'm all about just doing the thing because the longer you put it off, the bigger the problem it becomes. That
Yes.
mentality of waiting until Monday, waiting until after the holiday, for a lot of women, that has actually stemmed from the diet culture and then transferred into other areas of their life. So because they've always waited for the new diet on a Monday, New Year, I mean, I start some of my new goals in November, and some people are like, why aren't you waiting until the new year? I'm like, God, I might not be alive then. Who knows?
Exactly. I love that. And all of this really just stems down to lack of self-trust, I've found. When I'm dealing with a potential client that's like, oh, I'll start in 2 weeks, or I'll start, when I'm less busy, or, I'll start when the timing's right or whatever. I'm like, how do you know that the timing's going to be right in 2 weeks? Like what I have
Yes.
found is honestly like, your kid could break their arm in 2 weeks, like we always feel the time that we have. There's just never a perfect circumstance. Like, I'm hiring people at the moment and making all these changes. I could so easily be like, it's the wrong time to do that because I've got XYZ on my plate right now. But it's like, but then in 2 weeks or 3 weeks or a month, there'll just be something else. So it's just
Yeah,
life, right? And so I
absolutely.
found that it really comes down to self-trust, you know, all of these things of, you know, waiting and hoping and wishing. It's just that lack of self-trust. Whereas if you trusted that you would get the result, like, why would you wait? You wouldn't, right? And so it's really just that fear that just takes over so many people.
Yeah, and for so many people, it literally paralyzes them.
Yeah,
They get to a place, and I know, you know, even when I signed up to work with you, yes, I'd been in your world for quite some time, but timing had, you know, there'd been other thing, you know, and
of
it wasn't a
course.
case of putting it off. It was that actually it wasn't the right. And then you and I, you know, had that call, and I was like, I'm in. I was, you know,
Yeah,
just messaged straight away because I don't, you know, for the woman who used to literally like hang on to like phone, you know, mobile phone contracts that I hated, but I hung on them onto them because it was like, oh my God, better than the devil you know. Now I'm just like, if something isn't working, move on, change it, and you know, just take the opportunities because you never know what you know, and it's that whole sliding doors thing, isn't it? Like you never know if when you don't say yes, you never know what you're going to miss. And one thing that, you know, so many women say to me when they come and work with me is after a really short period of time, a week, 2 weeks, they're like, oh my God, like my only regret is why I didn't do this sooner.
yeah, I hear that all the
Never
time as
ever
well.
regret starting late.
Nah, nah. Just like you're never going to regret like having done a workout. It's like it's all the before stuff that sucks. Like, oh, I have
Yes.
to get ready, go there. Like you have to build up that, you know, that's the hard part, but you're never
Yeah.
going to regret it after. You know what I mean? You always feel fantastic after. So you would have worked with obviously a lot of different clients now, and you would have seen some have been more successful than others and whatever. What do you see as like what's actually in common with your successful clients that, you know, do lose the weight, do build the confidence, keep it off, feel great, you know, all of the things. Like what's in common with them in terms of the characteristics? Because it's rarely like the time they exercise, the exact foods they eat, you know, who they are, where they live. It's not about those things. Just like equally, so many people think as a coach, it's like, oh, it's only if you're a business coach that you can succeed, or it's this niche or this circumstance. And I find it's actually nothing to do with any of that. And it's the quality traits of personality of the person. So yeah, what have you picked up on?
Yeah, absolutely. And lots of women come to me with a really fixed mindset because that's been created from the diet culture
Conditioning.
that they've been
Mm,
in, the lifestyle they've lived, the identity, all those different things. And obviously, what I do is help women to, you know, reprogram their neural pathways to become a growth mindset and to change that identity. But what I really find is it's it's the women that will just find the solutions. So, you know, what I talk about is like, if you can't get out for an hour's walk today, do 30 minutes. If you can't do 30 minutes, do 15. If you can't do 15, do 5. Have a disco in your kitchen whilst you're cooking dinner for the kids. It's that difference between done is better than perfect and not doing it at all. And
mm,
the women that I see that have the greatest success are the ones who don't wait to feel ready or motivated, because I always talk about this, that motivation, willpower, and discipline, they are emotions, they're energy, they're not in an endless supply. We can't, you know, I don't feel like that all the time. I certainly know that you don't feel like that all the time. We have to build a, you know, an identity,
yeah,
create an identity, and reprogram neural pathways to do those things when we don't feel like doing them.
yeah,
And so that's where I see it coming from. It's the women that don't get in their own way, that do take the action, that do just JFDI.
yeah, yeah.
JFDI.
Yeah. So that messy, imperfect action and just doing like something is better than nothing kind of
Yeah.
mentality.
And
Yeah.
I share that with my, you know, I share that with my clients all the time. And you'll know this from coming on board and working with you. I am in probably the messiest chapter of my life. I'm 50, I'm in menopause. I'm now kind of looking after my 92-year-old dad who has Alzheimer's and dementia, who had a stroke in the middle of my last launch. And the old me would have like literally been like putting things off, or oh, you know what, I can't do this now, or that's, you know, oh my God, you know, I've lost it all because that didn't happen. And I'm just every day like just taking steps, messy steps, uncomfortable steps, but a step closer than I would be.
Yeah, and I see that in you, like you are so good at leaning into support and asking for support, and you love accountability, but then I see you just get shit done. Like literally, like we'll agree on what your focus should be, and then it'll be just a few hours later and you've done this and this, you've signed 4 clients, you've done all these things. Like you just move like at rapid fire pace like nothing else I've seen. And I know that in some of these seasons, yeah, you've been going through some major challenges personally, with your dad in particular, I would say. And, life has thrown you all sorts of things. And, you take a deep breath and it's a lot to, move through, but you ultimately keep showing up and it just sometimes looks a little bit different than if that circumstance wasn't there. But I've never seen you go like, oh, well, I'm just not going to even do it now, or I'm just going to give up or quit, or, now it's not possible. You just literally, adapt to fit the season that you're in. And I really admire that about you, because that would not be easy at all.
Yeah, and I think I'm really transparent inside of my programs with my clients, because so many of my clients are also in this messy chapter.
Mm-hmm.
We call it the squeeze generation, the sandwich generation, where I don't have children, but obviously a lot of women of my age have children, elderly parents, career, business, whatever it might be. And so if they're constantly waiting to put that, they'll deal with their health when, their children at university, they'll deal with their health when, but it's never going to happen, because there's always going to be something. One of my coaches always says life is always lifing. And it's true. Like the minute that, I say it's like a giant game of adult whack-a-mole. Like you get one mole down and another bloody mole comes up and another mole down. But that is life. So it's what it is about is just navigating all those things. Otherwise, we just never progress. We never move forwards.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, what I've found is that life is really about the progress, not really that end destination. We spend, let's say, for your clients, the goal is like to weigh 70 kilos. It's like, let's say they get there. It's like, that's exciting, yes, for maybe some minutes when you look at it, maybe the whole day, whatever. But then after that, like life literally continues on. And so it's really just about all the stuff in between, like actually enjoying the journey. And I think, even when I went on my, fitness and health journey, when I realized, I wasn't at the standard that I, wanted to be, and I knew I could feel and look better for myself. I'm really proud of how I navigated that. Instead of going on some big diet, restricting myself massively and hating the journey, I actually just changed my lifestyle, because ultimately that's all that had happened there. It wasn't necessarily I was like eating these terrible things or anything like that. It was like I had gone from working 8+ hours a day, standing on my feet in hospitality as a young, 18-year-old, and being too busy to eat, to like COVID hitting, sitting down 12 hours a day as a business owner, eating the same things, but just moving so much less. And
Yes.
it was just a lifestyle change that caught up on me, and I just didn't even realize it until I realized it and wasn't happy. And so instead of going on some massive punishment journey and all of this restriction, it was literally just like, okay, well, this is my new lifestyle of I do work online, I don't work in hospitality running around all day, so what things do I need to add into my lifestyle or shift and tweak to actually reflect how my life actually is? And because I built it in a sustainable way, yes, it's been very slow journey to get, to where I feel is my, standard or whatever, which I feel I'm, at now. It took several years really, but I enjoyed the journey. Like I never said no to a date night, never said no to a dessert, never had to calorie count, and all of that. To me, that's where all the pain was associated, literally thinking I had to do that to get the result that I wanted, because of all that conditioning, which is why genuinely I'm so passionate about what you do specifically and your integrity and morals around it. Because if I think back to when I was, not super happy with my health, and what actually made me cry and upset about it, it was thinking I had to do all of that bullshit that just so didn't align with me. Like it made me sick.
Yes.
I was like, I cannot starve myself. I cannot count calories. Like it was so not a thing for me. And so I'm just so glad that there was this part of me that was like, I'm just going to have to do this the slower way, but
Yeah.
actually not freaking hate my life in the process. And I think what's been so rewarding about this is like, I love the journey. Like the outcome's cool, but the journey is just as rewarding and satisfying because I've found for me what I love is progress. It's not a certain achievement. It's actually just feeling like I'm, doing the best I can and moving in a positive direction, whether that's my business, a relationship, or health. I think when you're so attached to the outcome only, you're miserable for 99% of the time, right? And so you've got to find a way. How can you love your business? How can you love your health? How can you love your relationship? And like the messy bits, everything in between, the whole journey. Super long tangent, but wanted to share that.
Yeah, and I absolutely love that because I was very much the same. Like it was all about the outcome, whether it was the weight loss, whether it's the
Yes.
business, relationship, whatever it was. And even though, the last 10 years, walking out of my corporate career, my health journey, everything, oh my gosh, you'll know the roller coaster ride it has been.
Yes.
But all those elements, the lowest of the lows, the highest of the highs, the things you learn about yourself, it it's priceless. No, and that's what I always say as well is like nobody can ever give you that on a diet. You learn those things from making those sustainable changes and those shifts.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why I wanted to share all of that as well, just because you can see how, there's just so much, it's just kind of like it's less about health and it's more just about the journey of life, of like when it comes to happiness, it's about how can you enjoy the process where you're spending majority of your time and effort. And so I love that what you're actually addressing with your clients is the root cause. It's like actually getting them to love themselves and feel good within themselves so that everything just becomes more enjoyable rather than a punishment or a chore or something like that.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Life is too short for, as I always say, like too short for calorie counting, too short for not having the dessert, too short for doing exercise you hate. Like
Yeah.
most women come to me, I hated exercise. I didn't own a pair of trainers until I was like 39, 40. And I hated it because of my, programming from school, from having a back, chronic back pain. So I bring in like activity for joy with my clients. And actually, what ends up happening is it's kind of ironic, isn't it? I have women come to work with me and they say, I've seen you do cold water swimming, Naomi. You're never, ever, ever going to get me to cold water swim. I see you climb mountains. You're never going to get me to like climb a mountain. I don't want to do any of that. And what do my clients end up doing? They join me, they start to like dabble, and then all of a sudden they're all signing up to do cold water swimming, they're signing up to do marathons, they're climbing their first mountain. Why? Because they're not being forced to do something, they're not having to do something, they're on the journey, they're discovering themselves and they're choosing to do it. And that is the difference in that mindset is absolutely huge.
I love that. So, moving on a little bit, how has this mentality that supported you so much in your personal life and your health supported you in your business? Like, what does that look like for you tangibly and intangibly as well?
Just every single area. And, we've already touched on this last couple of years, how messy it's been with, I relocated my dad from 300 miles away to literally 5 roads away from me. And what I obviously did not anticipate was, him having over 10 falls, a serious acute head injury, COVID twice, a stroke. And throughout that process of looking after him, making sure that he's safe, nursing him with COVID, all those different things, like I have kept going, I've kept moving forward. So I guess a perfect example is my book. Like when I signed up to work with the publishers and start writing my book, like things were okay with my dad, things were quite kind of stable. And then whilst I was writing the book, he literally was in hospital like every other couple of weeks. He was having a fall, a head injury, all these different things. I literally had my laptop with me 24/7, whether it was in a hospital writing, whether it was starting at 5 a.m. on a Sunday to get a couple of hours writing done before taking him somewhere, before doing something. So again, it's that like that adaptation and flexibility and taking that messy action and and that has really, really helped me in every area. Like I said, my last launch, I could have very easily, when my dad got rushed into hospital, there was no Wi-Fi at the hospital. I was in the middle of a launch. And I could have just gone, oh, you know what, I'm going to pull the launch. This isn't the right time. But I was just like, I'm going to make it work. Sat in my car, tethered off my phone, did messages, signed women up. So it has, yeah, it's impacted every single area. So, my business has grown, year on year over the last few years, regardless of all the obstacles, all the
Mm,
challenges, and also, the online space, the global situation where we are as a world. But I think that's because I just try not to get caught up in that whole like mindset of, oh, things aren't working for me or life is against me. It's just like, this is life, and I'm just navigating, and going through what happens.
yeah, good on you. Because yeah, I can just really hear how much of that is mindset versus it's, the like having the perfect circumstances. That doesn't seem to be the case. And I think that's really probably rewarding for people to hear, if they're in a phase right now where they're trying to grow their business or whatever it might be. And, for them to recognize that actually, they can get the results that they want if they're just willing to lean in and work with whatever life brings, because like you said earlier, like we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, and so
No.
we really just always need to just be in the now and do the best we can.
Yeah, absolutely. And I always joke and say, like, my dad's 92. At this rate, he'll probably outlive me. So I don't know what's around the corner for my life. I hope I'm going to have another 40, 50 years healthy life. But I don't want to regret not having written the book, not
Yeah,
having stood on the stage, not having lived out the legacy that I truly believe I'm here to live. So yeah, just, I put so much off in my life for years. Like, I'll wait until I meet the man of my dreams to go on the perfect holiday or to do these things. And in March, I turned 50, and I took myself to Florence in Italy for four
so
nights
good.
on my own. And yes, I have plenty of friends. I'm not a Billy No Mates, but I was like, why am I waiting for like to go to somewhere like Florence to, to be in the relationship or to, be all these things? I'm just all about doing it and showing other women like not only what's possible, but actually when you do these things, just if you look at the compound effect, you think you're only taking one messy step, but over the course of a month, a year, whatever it might be, that growth is absolutely huge.
100% in every area of life we see that. I always find this really fascinating in business. Some people will want these like instant gratification results, but it's like, where else in life do you actually see that happen? With health, it's like you don't just go to the gym once and all of a sudden you walk out with abs and you're super fit and lean, you don't have to do it again. It's like people that have the abs or whatever it might be, it's because they go to the gym every single day, absolutely regardless, and a whole bunch of other things as well. It's not even just going to the gym that's the case, right? And so, like, the same goes with creating a successful business. It's like it's those little things that that you consistently do that compound over the time. Same with a relationship, like the most inspiring, beautiful relationships out there. It's like that's built on lots of conversations, lots of, leaning into difficult things and overcoming challenges and communicating boundaries, whatever that might be. Like, it's not just, you get in a relationship and that's that. Like, the healthy ones actually do a lot of work that make it healthy. And I wish people kind of saw that it's really just that one step today, that one decision to start working with you or start working with me, or taking that, like signing up for the gym or posting the bloody post on social media, whatever it is, like that. It seems big in many ways and small in many ways as well, but it's not really about that. It's about then doing that consistently and watching how that transforms into something absolutely life changing.
Yeah, and we've been sold a lie. I, talk about this in my book about the dopamine fix that, we believe that, like you say, one session at the gym and we're, and we're fit and healthy. We can order something and get it within 24 hours delivered to our home. we so often are not prepared to work for the success that we want. And
Yeah,
also, let's be honest, social media has a really, a very corrupt vision for so many of us.
of
We see
course.
the influencers, we see the successful business owners. What we don't see, unless they're
Yeah.
transparent, and this is what I love about you and why I really wanted to, why I work, signed up and worked with you, because you're so transparent, like I am. I share the shit days, the times that things don't go right, the times that I go to bed, crying because in the middle of a launch, my dad's had a stroke and, I'm on my own dealing with it all. So often we're just seeing the product
Yeah.
of years of failure, of obstacles, of all those different things, and we're not seeing the journey that it takes to get there.
Yeah, and it's always a huge journey. Like there's literally just no such thing as an overnight success, is there?
The overnight success that took 10 years.
Exactly. We've obviously been, how long have we been working together now? Like,
I think, oh, so I did actually have a little look back. I think August, September, October. So
yeah.
I think now probably like 3.5 months.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I wasn't 100% sure. Time just, yeah, flies by.
I
I feel
know.
like I've known you for a lifetime. Um, what has been like the big or little changes that's even happened for you in the last 3.5 months then since working together?
So I think again, different angles, definitely. And if I look at what I've been through in the last few months and how
Yeah.
challenging things have been, having that one-to-one support from you has been absolutely game changing. Um, because there have been some wobble moments, they happen. So it's been, I think just that ability to reach out, to sort of share that, and then just like, yeah, but let's do this, and also you helping me to reflect on actually what I have achieved, is also incredible. But also for me, I think it is, and I said this to you before, one thing that just appealed to me so much about the way that you work is this spacious scaling, because I have been in an online space for the last sort of 6 years that has been all about hustle harder. Success only comes from having a packed schedule, from being visible all the time, from being at every event. And I'm in a new chapter of my life, and that's not what I want anymore. I want to have that space. I want to do that. So whilst I'm not there yet, I am certainly, with
Come
working
a
with
long
you,
way.
I've come a long way, and I also feel like I'm on the right path to get there. And, it doesn't happen overnight. There's always that messy, uncomfortable stage when change is happening, shift is happening. But obviously something else that, you really helped me recognize was the way that I've been operating my business, like 3 major launches a year. It
Much
doesn't really
pressure.
work.
Yeah.
It's massive pressure. Doesn't really work for my ideal client, because when my ideal client wants to work with me, she wants to work with me now. My non-ideal client doesn't want to work with me now. She wants to put it off until
Yeah.
January,
So true.
after the kids have gone to uni, all those different things. But my ideal client that I want to work with, when she's ready, she's like, I'm in.
Yeah.
So I realized that my business model wasn't working for me, but actually it wasn't also working for my ideal client. And even
So
that shift that's
fascinating.
happened since September, or yeah, no, since I made that shift in September, that is already having a significant impact. So yeah, it's again, it's not one thing, it's many things.
Yeah, yeah. And I just wanted to ask because obviously like 3.5 months is not really that long in the scheme of things, especially when you're looking long term. Again, I think this conversation is very much a bit about health, bit about business, but in some ways 3.5 months isn't that long. And yet you've accomplished so much. Like you're making more money with less people because you're charging properly, structuring it properly. You've actually set the business up in a way where, like you just said, you are actually supporting the needs that your dream clients, which is who we want to work with, dream clients, you've set it up in a way that actually supports them to win now. And something else that I've noticed with you is that you are implementing more systems, you're delegating more, you're, leaning on support more. And that's just taking things off your plate, which is actually getting you more of that spaciousness, which will obviously compound over time as you delegate more, as you systemize more, which is very much what you're in the middle of now. And that's been really cool to see. Just slowly you get more time back and actually start saying no to things as well. And, no to things that just like aren't necessary. And it's been really cool to see you kind of get up level in that way in such a short period of time.
Thank you. And look, you are the perfect role model for this because, and I messaged you, I think it was yesterday morning, and obviously I'm in the UK, you're in Australia, so I'm always checking my clock to go, what time is it there? I watched one of your workshops, obviously, actually I watched it in bed the other night on my laptop.
Love it.
And I was just, so inspired. So I love your absolute transparency on, even sharing your calendar and all those different things. And I think, again, this is kind of where it really resonates, is that we only know what we only know. And I have so many women come, I know what I need to be doing, Naomi, I just need to do it. And the truth is, if you really did know,
You'd be doing it.
doing it.
Yep.
And it feels a bit like that coming to work with you, because I've been doing what I know, what I've been seeing, what I've been modeled on. But actually, is that what I want? No, I feel like I'm in this place in my life where I want different things. I want space. I want freedom. I want openness. I want safety. I want all those different things. And, like you said, I've put my trust in, outsourcing some things, getting that support, doing all those things, which are things I would never have done to this level, to enable me to get to that next stage, and also to enable me to help more women. I did an Instagram live with a lady last night, and she said, like, how on earth are you going to help more women on your mission when, and I'm like, oh, I'm working on that.
Yes, exactly. Oh, that's so special. It honestly makes me so happy. And especially, I think, with this season, like you've been doing all of that whilst arguably being in, one of the hardest seasons, in regards to your dad being, really unwell and all of that. And for you to be having made all those upgrades whilst, navigating that, again, so many people could be like, not the right time to do that. But if anything, it's never been more of the right time to do that, because how important has it been that you've actually been able to have time to be with him and support clients and have time for yourself and all of those sorts of things?
Yeah. And actually, what I think this comes back to is health.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because
got to have that
what
energy.
I see so many women in midlife, at this stage of life, menopause has a massive impact on, physical, mental, emotional well-being. But I would not have the energy to put the time into my business, to look after and support my dad in the way to still look after myself, if I had been neglecting my health as I was. If I was on that trajectory from my 30s into my 40s and at 50, there's no way that I would be able to do all of this.
No way.
It absolutely comes back to that when we look after ourselves and our health, our businesses grow, our family benefit from it. It ripples everywhere.
What a cool episode. I feel like we have really just merged both business and health and see the overlaps. So in summary, if someone wants to be their healthiest, wealthiest, happiest selves, they really need to, prioritize the things that they say that they want and just do the thing, like take that messy action, lean in, and have support, right? Because we don't know what we don't know, and nothing changes if nothing changes. So I feel like that's kind of my takeaways from this back and forth conversation around these different overlaps of very important areas of people's life. We've spoken about health, which you've got nothing if you don't have your health. And then your career, whether that's a business, many people listening, they're either starting a business, growing a business, or scaling a business. And even if you don't have a business, career does take up a lot of our life. So I think seeing the mindset that actually creates success in those areas and other areas of life, I think is kind of the most important part, because it does trickle into in many different ways and many different ripple effects.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't have said that any better myself. It does transcend into every single area of your life.
I have loved this conversation. Naomi, where can people find you if they just want more of you in their life, and receive your support? Where can people find you?
So I am on Instagram at Naomi Hullbrook Coach, Facebook Naomi Hullbrook, and then obviously I also have my website www.theunconventionalweightlosscoach.com.
Amazing. We will link all of that as well. Definitely, everyone needs to go check out your book as well. But your energy is very infectious, as everyone would already know after having listened to or watched this. But thank you so much for your time, your passion, your energy, your love, your expertise today. I freaking love working with you, which you obviously know, but I just wanted to say it again now. And I'm really grateful that we've been able to, bring you onto the podcast, and everyone can get to experience you.
Oh, thank you for having me on. Thank you so, so much. It's been wonderful.
So good.